So the way we define sustainability is an opportunity to transform organizations, communities, and the world to really take advantage of major changes that are available in increasing the quality of life, social equity, economic development, and environmental regeneration throughout the world and for all people.
Can you tell us a little bit about the resources that alumni have access to, whether on the web or through some of the faculty that have been doing sustainability initiatives in the school?
There's a number of different resources that we're increasingly putting up on the web. So for instance, one of the things that we're doing is making sure there's a sustainability at Sloan website under the Sloan website, which has white papers written by the faculty, working papers, articles, tools. So John Sturman has developed that simulation tool for looking at climate change impacts. We also have the white papers from various courses. There's a lot of the course websites that provide materials on what the projects are that are going on, who the speakers are in campus, what are useful resources associated with sustainability. Another thing that we're doing, particularly in the Sloan School executive education, is starting to develop executive education modules that explicitly address the sustainability challenges and opportunities. So there's a number of different opportunities that are on site. We also have been running a number of conferences. So we had the ILP conference on sustainable business strategies in December of '07. And then we had the Sloan Convocation, which was for the Sloan Fellows in September of this year. And then, of course, the Sustainability at MIT student team is going to be pulling together their Sustainability Symposium in the spring of '09. So it's been just wonderful.
Thinking still about the campus greening projects and what students as well as faculty have been doing to help green the campus, do you think that MIT should commit to a certain amount of energy or carbon reductions?
There are so many opportunities to make things better on this campus. One of the things that we've seen for a lot of the universities is, and for a lot of organizations, and this is something that so many of my colleagues here in the Sloan School have been working on, is what is it that allows an organization to move forward successfully, not just for the first step, but for the whole long journey that's ahead. And one of the things that Professor Henderson likes to say is that if an organization establishes a portion of an objective that they know they can reach, they focus on it, they set up the metrics, they then reach it, they can use that momentum and that success to then reach for success in another area. So when we look at what MIT should be doing, I think that if we look across all of the operational aspects of what MIT is as an institution, as a learning and research community, as part of the community of the city of Cambridge, Massachusetts, as part of the community of the state of Massachusetts, we start looking at what are the things that we really can do, and then be able to say, okay, this is what we know we have. So the first thing you have to do is set your baseline. You have to understand what it is you use right now so that you could say, this is what we use, this is where we're aiming towards, right? And then this is the way we're going to be able to get there. Then put those actions into play and then monitor it to see whether or not you've achieved it. And if you can't seem to be achieving your objectives, go back and renew it and say, what is it that we need to refine? What do we need to change in terms of what we're doing so that we can achieve those objectives? I would love to see MIT set itself some real objectives. Whether we, count it out as a carbon footprint, whether we count it out as a proportion of the energy use we use now versus what we will use in 5 years. Mm-hmm. I would love to see something that's a real target because there is so much creativity, there is so much enthusiasm on this campus.
How do you think alumni can get involved in some of the work that the students and faculty have already been doing on campus?
There's a number of ways in which we're working with organizations, and alumni are a critical part of the whole community we work with. One of them is their organizations or their companies can provide projects for the students to work on in the project-based courses. A second thing is that we love to have alumni come back and talk about what their company is doing, what their experience is, because that connection to what is happening in the real world and what a career pathway may be for the students is really wonderful and really creative. A third element is getting involved in the type of research that we're doing right now. Either having their company or organization be the object of the research or supporting students through research assistantship and various other funds, scholarships, fellowships, sponsoring the students for trips to work with the organizations would be wonderful. Students don't have much money, and it often can blow the budget when you have to telephone conference call with your client in Africa once a week. I know that was an issue for many of the teams. So there's a number of ways in which the alumni can get involved.
Can you talk a little bit about the larger context of global environmental sustainability? How does the student projects and the faculty work and the sustainability classes fit into that more global context?
What we hope is that there's a number of ways in which we can contribute towards developing solutions. One of them is in basic knowledge development. There are so many things that we still don't know. You know, if you look at aspects like the behavior of certain chemicals in the environment and how they break down and what the impact is on community health, those are really critical basic research questions that still need to be solved. There are a number of difficult situations. For instance, there may be communities that have toxic waste in their community. How do we remediate that? How do we regenerate the natural systems so that they can come back and be as strong as they were before? How do we protect the humans in that community? How do we enhance the social equity issues in many areas where economic development is not necessarily evenly distributed around a community? What does it really mean, for instance, to provide a power source to a community so that now they can actually pump water from a well and they can get fresh water, clean water that will not poison and kill their children? I mean, those are enormous benefits. What we're also seeing is that through a lot of these student projects and through the development, and there's just been so many wonderful programs through the community service program or the public service program at MIT and a number of other things, the sense of worldwide citizenship, which I'm seeing really growing among MIT students, is, I think, in many ways an incredibly important contribution that MIT is making to the world. This sense that we're all in this together, that solutions that are developed for Alberta, Canada, may be applicable to Southern Africa. That we're developing students that care about this, and we're engaging faculty and students in their wonderful sets of faculty and staff and students in their wonderful set of skills to really address a lot of the global issues. One of the things everybody's realizing at this point with the international financial meltdown is we really are connected. And so the more effectively and explicitly that we can address a lot of these challenging issues, both as individual researchers and as a community of MIT, I think hopefully we will move the world along towards those solutions.
Can you talk a little bit about how the small sustainability projects that we do on campus can potentially lead to solutions to solve much larger environmental problems?
When we look at scientific or engineering solutions, there's always the multiple stages. So the first stage is the aha stage. Wait a minute, this might work. The next stage is really developing the theory. The stage after that is the lab scale, where you start doing small scale steps. and saying, okay, can this really work in the experiments? The next stage after that is where you take it up to the next scale of use, and that's the various communities call it different things. In the computer science area, they call it bench lab tests, and so you take it up. And in many ways, using MIT as our own lab is taking it up to that bench scale. The next stage after that is full production scale often. And so when we do these tests within the MIT community, it allows us to make that bridge between the lab experiments and the full-scale rollout. Of course, there's going to be aspects about different applications, for instance, scale or scope or a number of different variables that may come in a full-scale rollout. But being able to do these bench-scale tests on the MIT campus gives the students an incredible learning experience without either the career or the financial risk that's associated in doing them in a commercial environment. That you can go ahead and try something, and if it doesn't work at MIT, that's part of the learning, right? Whereas if it doesn't work in a company, your boss says, what do you mean you spent all that money and time on that? So it's a nice way of being able to do it on the MIT campus, where this is what it is that we can do effectively.
Thinking about the university now, I think sustainability has done a good job of bridging some divides between faculty in different departments and different academic units, as well as students between the different departments and students to their professors. Can you explain a little bit about what you've seen in the time that you've been here, sustainability kind of bringing everyone together?
I think one of the exciting but also challenging aspects of sustainability is that this is a totally new way of framing the problems. And so nobody's the expert. And there are students that have read deeply on this, that have worked in international aid organizations, that bring a whole store of knowledge and experience to the question. And faculty who may have been thinking about specific areas are now finding that their specific areas have a new application with respect to sustainability. The staff has really gotten involved as well. You know, one of the things that we were looking at, for instance, was ways in which we can actually green Sloan's operations. And what we saw was that the students came up with great ideas in terms of behavioral changes and ways of thinking about what it was that we were doing. Faculty came up with ideas saying, well, why do we do readers? Why do we make everybody buy these huge stacks of paper? Maybe we can think about transferring the information in different ways. Maybe it's electronic, but you don't want to have people printing them out themselves. So thinking about, okay, how do we green those operations? And then the staff have said, wait a minute, where do we order food from when we have all these people to lunch? What happens if we order it locally? How do we think about the compostable materials afterwards? So what we've seen is that because this is a new area and it's still an emerging field, nobody's an expert. And so everybody listens to each other. And that's a very exciting learning opportunity. And it's a nice time to be able to create a community which is very egalitarian because every voice matters.
Great. That's all the questions I have. Is there anything that you want to say that you haven't said so far?
I think one thing that really has struck me is that for all of the alumni that I have talked to from MIT, they care about sustainability and they wonder what is it that's possible to do. And so what we've been looking at is the orders in which people can do things to make a difference. The first level is often individual. And there's people who say, but it doesn't really matter if I drive or if I don't drive. If everybody else is driving, then my change in behavior doesn't make a difference. But what we're seeing is that a small change in behavior can then move to another small change in behavior, and it does build up, and it does make a difference going forward. What we're also seeing is that individuals can have an incredible leadership opportunity in their organizations. I was talking to an MIT alum who works for a major multinational organization, And he said, I really cared about this sustainability. So I and a bunch of the buddies in my division got together and said, well, what is it that we could do to change our product design so that we would have less waste? Turns out 6 months later, they're now reporting to the CEO because the CEO and all of the bosses up the line said, yes, we should do something about sustainability. And so that one person helped change their whole organizational strategy with respect to sustainability. What we're also seeing is that there's enormous opportunities for people to get involved in their communities. Most towns have no idea of what it is they should or shouldn't be doing in sustainability. You know, should they incinerate their waste? What does that do to air quality? Should they figure out a way of separating the solid waste? What does it mean to put in a community composting facility and to capture the methane? Can they then use the methane to power the town vehicles? What does that do to the operating costs for the community? So there's opportunities for people to get involved with their community, and then there's many ways in which people can get involved both at the national and the international level. So I think it's an exciting time. I think that we're hoping that we have our alumni join us on this journey that we're going on in the whole MIT community of what is it we can be doing, how can we be doing it effectively. The more people that get involved, the faster we'll all move forward.